mid-season NFL football to talk about. We got Wemby. We got it all. It's Pass the Rock.
Could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey, yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian. Yeah. Posting like Kobe Bryant, flying to see the pie. Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of out of lefties, from football to racing jackies. He go silly when he go deep, sheesh, is Zach Zeman. Teaming up with Jack, we stack the whole team, man. Pass the rock, don't stop the shot clock. Smack the slap shot, come on, now let's talk. Pass the, yo, partner, pass the rock, for real.
All right, Zach, I already told the story to Jack before. I found this hat from the old New Orleans Hornets days and decided to wear it today. A, because it's awesome. And B, because all I have to do when you say something stupid is point right to my hat and it says no. So be ready for that. Starting with you. You stated that National Tight End Day was your very favorite holiday. I want to know who excited you most to celebrate with.
Honestly, last night, of course, I was watching my Eagles. Dallas Goedert finally had a very solid game overall. He got me very excited about National Tight End Day, but I'm not going to lie. Kelsey dominated for one of my fantasy teams. I was really happy seeing that, especially, with that, with Taylor in front, Taylor's in the stands makes it even better. So, yeah, Kelsey.
Oh, boy.
Oh, there goes his internet.
Oh, boy.
I think what you were going to say is, you weren't very excited about Taylor, but you're more concerned because of how close Jackson Mahomes was to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I'm just concerned for my internet. That's all I'm concerned about now.
Awesome.
Is
Jack, you were actually present in the first ever start in the NFL for Tyson Bagent. If they printed tickets, would you keep that and just hold on to it as a keepsake? Maybe the best moment of your life.
I don't know if I would call it the best moment of my life, but it sure was fun. I have to say, for a 1-5 football team, the Bears fan, and a 1-5 football team with absolutely no hope, by the way, Bears fans put together one hell of an atmosphere. I was thoroughly impressed by their fan base. And, for all the complaining that I hear about Soldier Field being a dump and them wanting to get a new stadium, I thought it was kind of nice. Like, it was old, but the environment that it put on, the atmosphere in the stadium, I don't think that's replaceable. I had a great time, even though I was watching Bears Raiders with Tyson Bagent and Brian Hoyer. And yes, I would save the ticket because it was awesome.
Brian Hoyer just makes that story so even worse.
Yes.
But no, I don't, I'm kind of a sucker for the old school stadiums. I know why they want to build something new, but that one right next to the lake, it's just I don't know. I kind of like that whole situation there in Chicago. So, all right, Zach, hopefully you're back for good.
Hopefully.
One big moment in our lives. Tomorrow the NBA starts. So we have a lot to talk about there. We're going to talk about it a lot going forward. I got a couple of over-unders on playoff seeds for us all to answer. It's going to be exciting. We're going to start with Jack. Lakers, over-under the Western Conference's 3rd seed.
You're really trying to get me here, aren't you? You give me my team. You give it at a very reasonable spot. You're trying to get me to say something stupid, and you know what? I'm going to fall right into your trap. Give me the
yes, I knew it.
This could completely fall apart if LeBron gets hurt, if AD gets hurt, if they both get hurt, if LeBron shows his age. There are so many variables that could go wrong here. But if things go the way that, if things don't fall off the rails, if it's a normal season, this is a good roster. This is probably the best roster there's been in the LeBron AD Lakers era, although it's hard to say that because they won a championship. But it's a very complete top-to-bottom roster. LeBron will still be productive in his age 38 or 39. How old is he? I don't even know. You're 21. That's unbelievable. Yeah. But I still think he's going to be a very productive player. AD, I think, is going to have to take the torch if the Lakers want to have that top 2 seed kind of season. And actually stay healthy and be that guy. But I think if he's on the floor, he has the athletic capability of doing that. So it's going to be a very fun team to watch this season. And I think top to bottom, this roster does have a chance, if it can stay healthy, to be a top 2 seed.
All right, Zach, is that insane? Next question.
Yeah, that honestly is a little insane. You're asking for a lot to go right in a yet again stacked Western Conference for the Lakers to end up being a top 3 seed. I don't think it happens.
All right. So hold that thought, Jack. You'll get your chance to rebut as I asked Zach. 76ers over under the third seed in the East.
You're trying to do the same thing to me, trying to bait me into a dumb answer. I'm not taking the bait. This team has 4, 5, 6 seed written all over them. This is obviously an under. I don't see this team as being able to compete for a championship anymore. James Harden's probably not playing for us. And while, his impact can be, questionable, like how much that is, without him, there's clearly a gap in the lineup. I do like some of the younger players that we're starting to get more into the lineup. I'm looking forward to seeing more from Maxey, more from Paul Reed, more from Jaden Springer off the bench. I'm looking forward to these young guys, but with what the Sixers have now, it's not built for a championship run yet. I don't see them competing with the top teams in the East, and I don't think they make it above the third seed.
Okay, Jack, over to you. Where do you see the 76ers falling in the East?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Zach said. I do agree about what you said about the young players. I could see this being a most improved kind of season for Tyrese Maxey. I think that's definitely in the cards. But just the murkiness of the James Harden situation, that's just hanging like a dark cloud over the organization right now. And it just has to be resolved, like plain and simple, before I can say anything about the Sixers having aspirations this year. Look, I mean, as long as you have Joel Embiid, you're going to be a competitive team. This team isn't going to fall out of the playoffs. They're going to be, I would say, probably a 4 or 5 seed if I had to guess. But I don't think they're quite good enough to be in the top of the Eastern Conference this year. So it would be an under for me.
Yeah, I kind of circled the 4 seed. I just think that the East is not as strong. You can throw Cleveland in the mix with the Celtics and the Bucks and the 76ers. And, maybe you'll have a surprise with the Hawks. We'll talk about it in a second. But I think they're right there in the middle. I think the Harden thing, if it ever gets resolved, may actually free them up to play a little better basketball. I think he's a guy that you just rely on too much. And this late in his career, it's not what you want to do. Next, my Pelicans over under 7th seed. So that means, do they actually make it into the real playoffs, or do they play in the play-in again? Here's where I've come. I've thought about this a lot. I think they're one of the harder teams to pinpoint. I think in the end, it all comes down to Zion and how much he plays. And I don't think they are above the 7th seed. I think they're in the play-in again. I think they have the ability to be the 3 or 4 seed if they had health all year. I think they have enough health. And I think they end up the 7th or the 8th and then make a run kind of like they did 2 years ago to be competitive. So in that first round, maybe squeeze. I think it's going to be hard. If they end up having to play Denver, it's over. They don't have a chance. But if they get a team they match up better, I think there's a chance. Anybody going over than the 7th seed in the West for the Pelicans?
If Zion Williamson plays a full season, which is unlikely, but if he does, this would be the easiest over of my life. I
agree.
I think the Pelicans are really, really good on paper this year. Of course, health is a massive wild card. And honestly, this team might have like the biggest range of outcomes of any team in the NBA this year. Like, I see a world where they're the 3 seed. I see a world where they're the 10 seed. Like, it could really fall anywhere in between there. But I think if they have a good run of health, and it mainly relies on Zion playing, I think this team will be a top 6 team in the West if Zion plays. But if he misses time, which at this point in his career is probably likely, I think your prediction's pretty fair.
Yeah, he will miss time. The question is, does he play 26 games or does he play 55 games?
Right. It's a big difference. It's a big difference.
And they just signed Lakers legend Matt Ryan, which has, just a really unfortunate name for the Pelicans franchise.
I will say that one game winner that he had as a Laker was electric.
Yes. Well, he hit a 3 against the Pelicans to go to overtime, and then you all beat us in overtime.
Right.
So, Jack, back to you. Hawks over under 7th seed in the East.
What's really funny is that I did not request to talk about the Hawks here, but I am so happy that you gave them to me because I could not have handpicked a better team for me. I love the Hawks this year. I am a big Hawks guy. I'm a big Quinn Snyder guy. I was not happy when the Jazz fired him, although they ended up with a great coach. In his own right, Will Hardy. But Quinn Snyder, I think, is one of arguably the top 10 coaches in the NBA. I think he's going to establish a really good culture in Atlanta. And now that he has a full season there, he had a full off season. This team is pretty good. They've got some good players on paper. Obviously, Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. I think this could be a big make or break year for DeAndre Hunter. He's sort of an X factor in their season, but I like him a lot. I think he's really talented and he could take a step. Onyeka Okongwu is another one of those guys that needs to sort of take a step. I could totally see it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think this team ends up as the 5 or 6 seed. I think that they're going to be one of the 6 solidified playoff teams, not in the play-in. I'm a big fan of them, and I think it's going to be a great year in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate the Eastern Conference is not that good. If the Hawks just handle their business, they could be a 5 or a 6 seed. Zach, any disgruntlement with that?
A little bit. I'm not nearly as high on the Hawks as Jack, and I think that 7th seed line is a really good line, but I'm leaning the under personally on the Hawks. I don't really. They've been in this weird space the past couple seasons where it's like, will they trade John Collins? Will they build around Trae Young, which they haven't really done. They haven't given Trae Young enough support to make them a top team in the East anyways. I think we're going to be seeing more of the same for the Hawks. I can see them as a 7, 8, or a play-in team. Can't really see them higher than the 7th seed, honestly. So I'm going the under with this.
Yeah, Jack, the other team I was thinking about giving you besides the Hawks was the Magic, because I do think they have a chance to step up a little bit. I was probably going to give you over-under the 9th seed or something, just to see if they can get in that top 8. That's another team I think you got to watch for in the East. Mm-hmm. Zach, the Raptors, over-under 9th seed.
The 9th seed is a very low bar we're talking here.
Yeah.
Look, I know the Raptors, you lose Fred VanVleet and everything, but I honestly think they can still make the over here. They do still have some good young talent with Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby. It's a good young core, and the East, we always know that it's a bit weaker than the West. I think they can definitely go above the 9 seed, but if they get above, it's pretty much like the 8 seed, 7 seed absolute best. This is not a great team. This is not a team competing for a championship, but in a weakened East, they can definitely make a little bit of noise and make the dance.
Yeah, they're the Pittsburgh Steelers of the Eastern Conference. They tried just enough to not have a good draft pick. Jack, your thoughts on the Raptors?
It's actually an under for me. I know you keep saying that you don't think the East is very good. I think there are more consistent teams in the Eastern Conference than the Raptors will be this year. And it's a complete reset on the culture. You got rid of Nick Nurse, who I think is a great head coach. I think Philly's happy to have him. And I think that I don't know much about this new guy, Darko Rajakovic, I think is his name. But I think it's going to take time for a rookie head coach to sort of make his impact and reset that culture. And I don't know. I just think there's more consistent teams. I think if I'm thinking about teams that will fall in the play-in range in the East, the Knicks, I like better than them. The Nets, I like better than them. I might like the Bulls better than them even. I think Orlando, like you were talking about, has some upside. I think they could be better. Detroit has some good young pieces. Indiana has some good young pieces. I don't know if I like those teams more than I like the Raptors, but I could totally see a world where they're better.
I like Indiana as a dark horse for the 4 seed. I really think they could.
Part of me sort of thinks that Toronto is going to have sort of a blow it up year, sort of stumble a bit out the gates with a rookie head coach, fire sale at the deadline, and then start tanking.
All right, the last team we'll talk about right now, the Mavericks, over under the 7 seed in the West. I have them under. I do think they're better than last year. I do think they'll make the play-in, but I just really worry about the implosion that is Kyrie Irving. Any thoughts here? Are they an automatic over, make the playoffs, Zach?
I feel like they probably are. I mean, they're a very talented group overall. They did get better in the offseason, like you mentioned. Look, I don't see them as a top contender in the West, but I definitely see them as a 5-6 seed at the bare minimum. That's kind of what I expect from them. If Kyrie Irving does implode and ruin the team's chemistry, then yes, there is a world where they become a play-in team at a 9-10 seed. But my expectation is that they stay around, the 6 seed mark, and I think they're going to end up being over. Not much over, but they're going to be over.
This is an automatic under. For me, it's an automatic under. Automatic. I'm not even hesitating. I think they actually might not make the play-in this year. Not necessarily because I don't believe in this team entirely. I love Luka. I think Kyrie is a disaster waiting to happen, but I digress. The defense for this team is going to be terrible. And that in the Western Conference is going to be a disaster. Let's just go down the list of teams that are better than them. The Lakers, Phoenix, Denver, the Clippers, Golden State, Sacramento. Who am I forgetting? I think the Pelicans are better. You got to give the benefit of the doubt to Memphis. I mean, even without John Morant last year, they were a competitive team. They're better than Dallas. I mean, that's 8 teams already that's better than them. And that's not considering teams that I think could take a jump. Yeah. Minnesota, OKC. I mean, I think that was 10 teams that I just named, unless I forgot one. I don't think Dallas is necessarily better than any of those teams. So, and they have a big flaw as far as their defense that is going to need to be addressed. And if they don't improve it somehow, or someone doesn't take a big step forward, I don't see how they're going to be better than any of those teams.
Yeah, no, look, that's been my issue ever since, the last 2 or 3 years we've been doing this show, is their defense, specifically with Luka, but I think it extends, and, I do think they're going to have a tough time. That's why I put them right at 7th, just to see what you guys thought. But it'll be a tough year for them. I don't think they're as automatic. I think you could win the Southwest Division with 45 wins, if that, this year. Because you got San Antonio, Houston, Memphis not only lost Ja for 25 games, but they just lost Steven Adams for the season. So, anyway.
I find it very difficult to imagine a world where they're better than either Memphis or New Orleans. Very difficult.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Well, we'll see. You're just kissing up. You're getting me excited. You're making me think we're going to be in the legitimate playoffs. And then all my hopes will be dashed about 2.5 weeks in some random game at Charlotte. Okay. Let's talk about Wemby. We all got to see Wemby live at the Summer League. Instead of is better than, I want you to tell me Victor Wembanyama will be better than this player this season. So in his rookie year, what is he going to do? So I'm going to start with you, Zach, then go to Jack. Chet Holmgren, also in his rookie season.
Wemby's going to be better than Chet Holmgren. I don't think I have a doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Wemby's going to be better. But I think Chet Holmgren is your rookie of the year runner-up. I think he finishes ahead of Scoot in those voting.
He has been more impressive than I thought. When he was drafted last year, I was not very positive on him. But we'll see how that shakes out. Miles Turner.
Yeah, this still not even close. Miles Turner has been solid, but I think Wemby is going to be above and beyond that. So give me Wemby.
Yeah, I agree. Not much more to say. It's Wemby.
Everybody's player who never looks like he cares, Julius Randle.
Julius Randle. I feel like if he wasn't on a big market team, we wouldn't hear about him nearly as much. This is easily Victor.
I don't know. This is a multiple time All-Star that we're talking about that puts up pretty good numbers, but it's going to be Victor for me. Just because I think what we've seen so far in preseason and just the hype around him has been spectacular. And honestly, if Victor Wembanyama is not a better player than Julius Randle this year, there might be a media firestorm. So
the Spurs are going to get the number 1 pick again if that happens. All right, his countryman Rudy Gobert.
Oof. See, this one's a bit interesting because I think defensively it's probably still going to be Gobert, but as an all-around player, I think Wemby could be better than Gobert.
I actually think this is easily Wemby because Wemby's defense is almost on par. I mean, that guy is a freak defensively. And what he gives you offensively, even if it is like below your expectations, will still be better than Rudy. So it's a pretty easy Wemby for me.
Aaron Gordon.
Now, this is a pretty easy Wemby for me.
Yeah, me too. No, not much more to add.
Everybody's favorite Lopez brother, Brooke Lopez.
I'm more of a Robin Lopez guy. He's pretty funny.
Just for the hair, yeah.
Yeah. For the hair and for the mascot stuff. Brooke Lopez, one of the first big men in the NBA to really master the 3-point shot and become a kind of a sharpshooting option for the Bucks. But Wemby's already got that. He has everything. He can score from any level. So give me Wemby easily.
I just knocked over a water bottle, if you couldn't tell. But it's also Wemby for me. I love Brooke Lopez. I think that he's a great defender. I think that he's a great stretching the floor option, but I don't think he's quite what Wemby's going to be this season.
All right, let's ratchet it up a little bit. What about Lauri Markkanen?
I mean, Lauri Markkanen he was an all-star last year. Give him credit where credit's due, but I think Wemby's going to be better than him.
Yeah, it feels weird because I like Lauri. I think what he did last year was spectacular, but I think Wemby's got a chance to be significantly better than even that this year. So it's got to be Wemby.
Evan Mobley.
Another guy whose defense really shines, but I think just as an all-around player, it's going to be Wemby.
This is tough because Evan Mobley's also sort of on my most improved candidate list. I think he's going to be awesome this year. And he's also sort of a defensive player of the year, sort of kind of dark horse for me also. But I think Wemby's offense will give him a slight edge. I think that's the right move.
All right, let's be nice to Zach as the Diamondbacks are now up 5-1. Karl Anthony Towns.
Ooh, now that is a very interesting one because, I mean, Cat definitely one of the better big men in the league right now, and Wemby's got a lot of promise, but I'm going to play it safe. Cat has been great shooting from deep as well. He's shown that he can also score from almost anywhere. I'm going to go Karl Anthony Towns here.
Dare I say Wemby? Dare I say Wemby?
Dare you say Wemby?
I think what it comes down to is obviously Cat is offensively he's incredible, and I think it would be ridiculous to say that Wemby would be better offensively than Cat, but it comes down to the defense for me. Cat is not a good defender. I mean, Cat is really not great, and I think Wemby is immediately going to be a top 10 defensive big in the NBA. And whatever it gives you offensively, I think is a bonus. And I think, honestly, the gap between the two of them defensively might be bigger than the gap between the two of them offensively. So I don't think it's that unreasonable to say Wemby.
I think you're going to generally feel like Cat is a better player this year until they play each other. And he's going to look so unathletic, I think, compared to Wemby. And that's where you're going to be like, oh, my God, why would I have ever thought differently? But Sabonis.
Maybe I'm just higher on Cat, but I think this is going to end up being Wemby over Sabonis. I think he'll end up having the better season overall.
No, this is Domas for me. I mean, what he did last year in Sacramento, the way that he turned that team around, was a real leader for them. All-star caliber season. He was, I think, without a doubt, the best season of his career. And I think that's sort of the player that he is moving forward. And I don't think it's fair to him at all to say that a rookie is going to be better.
I think the key with him is, can he learn from how he got shellacked in the playoffs? Because I think he proved himself, just like the Kings proved themselves, to be a regular season team last year. And he's going to have to take that next step. Now, I know he was hurt in the playoffs a little bit, but if he takes the next step, he'll remain better. Siakam.
I don't think this one's going to be as controversial for me to say Wemby over Siakam. I mean, Siakam is really good, but I think Wemby just has the potential to be much, much better.
I also think this is disrespectful to say Wemby here. I like what Siakam has done statistically the last few seasons has been really great. And I just don't think – I think it will take – a borderline historic rookie season from Wemby to match what Siakam has done over the last couple of years.
Draymond Green.
Okay, come on. If you guys think that this is crazy, I don't know what to tell you. This is going to be Wembanyama. I don't think this is even questionable. I'd be shocked if you guys disagree with me. It's Wemby.
Yeah, it's Wemby for me too. I mean, what Draymond gives you defensively is incredible. But I think what Wemby's going to give you defensively is also going to be incredible. And Draymond gives you nothing on offense. So it's got to be Wemby.
I can't wait for the first Spurs-Warriors game to see how Draymond wants to get in his head.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
It just
honestly, in a one-on-one matchup, I might take Draymond. Just because Draymond.
Well, he's just going to try to back him down.
Overall, he might just tackle Wembanyama if that happens. So.
Yeah, he's going to try to break him. Jaren Jackson Jr.
Ooh. I like Jaren Jackson Jr. a lot. He's arguably, you could argue he's the best defensive player in the NBA right now as well.
Yep.
But Wemby's shown a lot on offense so far, and I know it's against preseason guys, and I know it's against guys who are going to be on the bench most of the time. But if that can translate into regular season play, I don't think it'd be shocking to say that Wemby's going to have a better overall season.
Yeah, oh God. We're gonna get so much hate for this video,
We
by the
are.
way. It's gonna be unbelievable. I think I'm taking Wemby too. It feels terrible to take a rookie over the reigning defensive player of the year. But I think what Wemby is going to provide defensively is going to be outstanding in his rookie season. I think he's, like I said, immediately going to be a top 10 defender in the NBA, which I don't think is going to be that far off from what Jaren was last year, which is crazy to say. But I think offensively is where he separates himself. I think Jaren is a good offensive player. I don't think he's anything spectacular. And I think that if Wemby shoots the ball the way that he has from the outside, and I mean, he has all those post finesse moves in his game, I don't see a reason why Wemby can't be better.
I'm going with Triple J just because if the Grizzlies are going to stay in this playoff race, he has to elevate. He has to take that next step. He has to be like a borderline third-team All-NBA guy if they're going to stay in this playoff race. I think they're going to be in a real tough range after 25 games, maybe even like 8-17, something crazy. So I think with that, if he takes that step, he's better than Wemby. If he doesn't, they're done, and obviously Wemby's better. Zion Williamson.
The biggest thing with Zion is that it feels like he's always out. Like he doesn't play enough, honestly. And I mean, the conversation we were having was, will he play 25 games or 55 games? Neither of those are a full season regardless.
I know.
So the fact that he's going to be missing time does not help him in this conversation. And right now, I'm probably going Wembanyama. And we are going to get so much hate. We're going to get so much hate for these picks.
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
But I'm just saying, just think about the fact that Zion is already going to miss time, and he just does not have the track record of staying healthy. So if Wembanyama, as long as he stays healthy as well with that frame, I see no reason why he can't have a better season than Zion this year.
How about this for a take? If Zion Williamson plays enough games to qualify, which I believe is 65, he will be an All-NBA first-team player this year. I think Zion is unbelievable. It's all about health, but there has been nothing but dominance when he's on the floor. And I really think that you cannot say that Wemby will be better than Zion, because even if Zion plays 25 games, in those 25 games, he will be better than Wemby in that sample size. So if I'm telling you who the better player is, it's absolutely Zion for next year. But it depends how you want to weigh games played into that equation.
Yeah, look, if they get the Kings' luck when it comes to injuries this year, let's remember they were a 1 seed a quarter way through the season. Then they went up to Philly and he twinged his hamstring because some Philly fan probably threw something at him, and then he was out the rest of the season. So you're right. I agree with Jack on this one, obviously, and that's not a surprise to anyone. And that's all I want. Just give me 1 season. Let's see what we got. Bam Adebayo.
This one, I actually am going Bam Adebayo. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season this year alongside with Jimmy Butler. I know the Heat didn't necessarily get like any better, but Bam has been a top 3 big man in the league for pretty much the past couple seasons. I'm looking forward to see what Bam does this year. I think he's going to have an overall better year than last year even. So give me Bam Adebayo. Wemby's going to be great, but there's going to be a few big men who are still going to be better than him, and Bam is one of them.
Yeah, it's Bam for me too. Bam's my depoy pick this year, and I think I picked him to win Defensive Player of the Year for like the last 3 seasons because I just think he's such a good defensive center. And I just feel like he has to win one at some point because he's just right up there every single season, so consistent, just being all around one of the best defenders in the NBA. And not to say he's a slouch offensively too. He's the number 2 scoring option on that team. It's Bam.
Well, with their new jerseys, he can look down and remember Heat culture, and then
Oh
he's going to
yeah.
step up.
Oh yeah. Always.
Beautiful. All right, last one. Anthony Davis.
This is another one where it's all about the health, man. I mean, Anthony Davis, it feels like every other week he's dealing with some minor injury that he has to sit out 3 to 4 games with. I mean, the man's got glass skin, glass bones, and it's just always something with Anthony Davis. Oh man, like it's just because of health. It's just because of health that I'm gonna lean Wembanyama here.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Look,
Oh my God.
look.
Oh my God.
A healthy Anthony Davis. This is no question. But this is
Do it for the
Anthony
comments,
Davis, for
baby.
God's sake. This is Anthony Davis, for God's sake. I'm going to get so much hate for this. But anyone who's watched basketball over the past couple of years knows that he does not stay on the court.
Did you say that anyone was better than Wemby? It was just Bam, right?
Carl Anthony Towns and Bam.
Carl Anthony Townsend.
What are you
What a
on?
range.
The reason I didn't pick Zion and Anthony Davis is because they aren't staying healthy.
Yes.
I think
if I knew for a fact that both of those players would stay healthy, I'm picking them both. But they are not staying healthy. Let's be realistic here.
Okay. Anthony Davis, it's a similar thing to what I said about Zion in that, like, if he plays enough games, he is one of the best players in all of basketball. And there is absolutely no denying it. And again, if AD only plays 25 games this year and you take 25 games of Victor, those 25 games of AD are going to be absolutely better. And look, I mean, it's a lot to ask to have a full season of Anthony Davis, but he keeps saying in the media that he's put a lot of attention in his body this offseason, and he's actively trying to play more games this year, which actually I've never heard AD talk like that before. Generally, he just ignores the fact that he's made of glass. He's actually addressing it this year, so hopefully that makes some sort of a change. But you cannot say that a rookie Victor Wembanyama is going to be better than Anthony Davis. That's absolutely ludicrous.
I find it amazing when NBA players are like, this year, I'm going to pay attention to my health because it's really important. Like, what else are you doing?
Yeah.
Okay, but to be fair,
Anthony
Davis has never, ever acknowledged.
I agree. I watched him very closely for 7 years.
Never. So, and he talked a lot this offseason about it. So clearly, at a minimum, he recognizes the issue. So hopefully, I don't know what it is. Maybe
that's what I'm saying.
Hired an athletic trainer or something. Wow. I don't know.
Look at
that's not impressive. Is what I'm saying.
He understands and recognizes. Look, all right. So you're telling me the man's been on Twitter before. Congratulations, Anthony Davis, for logging onto Twitter and seeing tweets about yourself. I'm very proud of you for seeing all the people clowning you for never being able to stay healthy. Congratulations. That doesn't mean anything. Look, until we see results, none of these picks are going to make any sense anyways.
Awesome. Well, that was a lot of fun. We'll do a lot. I can't wait to see Wemby get out there and give it a run. He starts with the Mavericks, by the way. All right, let's get to some football. Monday Night Football preview. We got the 49ers at the Vikings. 49ers favored by 7. No Deebo Samuel. So, Brandon Ayuk, over under 79.5 receiving yards. Zach.
That is a pretty high bar in my opinion, but I think without Deebo Samuel, it's very attainable. I'm going to go with the over here. I think Brandon Ayuk becomes that number one wideout threat. I also think without Deebo, George Kittle gets more involved as well. Both of them are going to have bigger days than they usually have. I like Ayuk getting some deep balls thrown to him, getting some quick routes thrown to him. I like him getting 10 plus targets, and I think he'll get around 8 receptions, and he can easily turn that into 80 plus yards. Give me the over. I expect a big game from Ayuk.
Especially against the Vikings, which you can throw on. Over to you, Jack. Brock Purdy, over under 249.5 passing yards.
Yeah, Brock Purdy needs a bounce back. Last week was brutal against Cleveland, and obviously their first loss of the season, his first loss as a starter in the NFL, which is still ridiculous to say. It's ridiculous, but he's due for a bounce back. The Vikings secondary has been atrocious this season, and I think he's going to have a field day. It's a pretty easy over for me.
Yeah, the question is going to be if they even need to throw. I think that's more of the end.
Honestly, that's the only reason he could hit the under.
Right. All right, Zach, Alexander Madison, over under 59.5 rushing yards.
I mean, against that Niners front seven, I'm going to lean the under here. Vikings offensive line is not super impressive. Madison hasn't been super impressive this season. I could easily see him losing a fumble tonight. I think the D line is going to cook. I think the Niners D line is going to absolutely cook. I'm expecting a great game from the Niners.
Yeah, a little bounce back game for them. Jack, TJ Hawkinson over under 6.5 receptions.
I mean, it's a holiday, right? It's a holiday celebrating him, and there's no Justin Jefferson. Come on, you got to take the over. It's got to be TJ.
And they're going to be chucking the ball all day. I mean,
yeah.
Kirk Cousins probably will have over 300 just because it's what he's going to need to do. All right, score prediction. You guys are a little high on your score compared to the over-under is only 44.5, but start with you, Zach.
What I'm expecting is the Niners to dominate for 3 quarters and the Vikings to make a little bit of noise at the end, make the score look a lot closer than the game actually was. I'm going Niners 35, Vikings 24. It's just going to be, just 5 touchdowns or so from the Niners, just making it a nice, easy work. And then, the fourth quarter, they put in some guys who, usually just on the bench. They're going to be up pretty big. And then the Vikings, make it a bit of a game, but it'll still end up finishing with a 2-score lead for the Niners.
All right, Jack, anything different?
I had an almost identical thought process, which is really funny. I have Niners 31, Vikings 20. I think the Niners get out to like a 28-6 lead or something ridiculous like that. And then sort of take the foot off the gas a little bit in the second half, coast a little bit. Vikings score a few more points, make it a little bit more respectable than it looked. So I'll go 31-20.
I think had the 49ers won last week and they were still undefeated, they got the Bengals next week at home. So this is the game like on their way back. I think they might have been looking forward a little bit, but they need to get right after last week. I think it's lower scoring, 24-14. I just think they come out and struggle a little bit. And, we're trying to figure out if McCaffrey's hurt. But in the end, they're up and it's comfortable at the end. So, all right. The teacher is back in session. We're doing a little true or false. My favorite new thing that we do. Jack, I'm going to start with you because I know this person, you're the head of their fan club. So true or false, Brandon Staley of the Chargers should be the first head coach fired this year.
If you couldn't tell, that was sarcasm from Brian. That is the biggest true ever. He needs to go so bad. He's holding this Chargers team back so much because if you look at this roster, you see Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen. I mean, and the list goes on and on. On defense, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, Joey Bosa. This team should be really good. There is no reason this team should be 2-4. And the only explanation, there's 2 things. The defense has underperformed like never before. I mean, they've been one of the worst defenses in the NFL with quote-unquote defensive guru Brandon Staley at the helm. And then on offense, they're overly aggressive in big spots, and it bites them in the butt every week. Again, Brandon Staley. He's holding this team back like no coach I've ever seen before. If he doesn't get, I say it every week, he should get the boot after this game. He should get the boot after this game. Just do it already.
I do have to say, Justin Herbert, at least once or twice a game, will miss such a wide open throw. It shocks me. 2 weeks ago, it was Keenan Allen. Yesterday, I forget who it was. He had deep down the left side and over, or it might have been Keenan Allen again in the end zone. He's got to be better, but I agree with you on Staley. All right. We need a little NFC East mind on this one. So, Zach, this is for you. True or false? The Giants should stick with Tyrod Taylor after Danny Dimes comes back from injury.
Man, I don't think either of those quarterbacks could lead them to any success anytime soon. I could reasonably say either of these, true or false, and explain why one's better than the other. I'm going to go with true. Tyrod Taylor actually showed that he can work with this offense. He actually showed that he can use Darren Waller. He showed that he's able to run all the plays they need to. He's just simply performed better than we've seen Danny Dimes do this season. So why not ride the hot hand, have the 40 million guys sit on the bench, ride the hot hand?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but I would say false because they should be losing games.
Fair. That's fair, actually.
I'm going to say
they
no.
definitely need to be in the running for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. to actually give them a chance with the receiving core.
Don't overestimate what happened yesterday. They won 14-7 against the Commanders. All right, Tyrod Taylor's
That's
not
hot
leading
for
them
a
to
Giants team. That is
well,
hot
I
for
will
a Giants.
say their defense the last 2 weeks has been really impressive. They shut down the
Sure.
Bills, and then I know it's not impressive to shut down the Commanders, but holding anybody to 7 points in the NFL is a good week. So kudos to their defense. All right, back up to you, Jack. The Bills will never win a Super Bowl as long as Josh Allen is their quarterback.
I think I have to say false because I believe so much in Josh Allen's physical talent that I know it hasn't ever been coached out of his game, but it feels like his flaws should be coachable. You know, like the gallivanting, trying to play hero ball, chucking the ball downfield,
Gallivanting.
I don't know why I said that, but chucking the ball.
That's awesome
because he thinks he can. It feels coachable, and with a guy with his arm strength, which is outstanding, his running ability, which is outstanding. I mean, he is one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks that has ever played in the NFL, and I think it feels like they have to figure out a way to win a Super Bowl with him, and I can't bet against that talent with sound mind.
Zach, true or false? Jack is just scared of Bills Mafia.
Absolutely true. I think this is right now, as far as I'm concerned, with the Bills squad they have. This is the last year that they're able to compete for a Super Bowl, and I don't think they're going to get it. Josh Allen has consistently been playing down to whatever competition he's facing. He's only as good as the defense and team he's facing each week. Just kind of shocking from a superstar that probably the worst performing superstar right now, I'd say. Very possible. But yeah, overall, if they don't get it this year, they're not getting it with Josh Allen at center. Dan Marino 2.0. How about that?
Ooh, ouch. All right, Zach, this one's for you. The Cowboys, true or false? The Cowboys are the third best team in the NFC.
Ooh, I think it's probably true at this point. And it's not necessarily the Cowboys being any better or worse than they usually are. It's more so the competition around them just isn't at the Cowboys level. The Lions, very disappointing this weekend, losing big to the Ravens. I was very disappointed with that, but as their schedule shows, they have not really done enough yet. They haven't played any great teams yet. So besides the Chiefs week 1, and even then that, wasn't really the Chiefs at full strength anyways. So the Lions, not as high as I thought it was. And the Seahawks, while they're probably ahead of the Lions now, I don't think they're on the Cowboys level. So I'm going to say yes, the Cowboys are still the third best NFC team.
All right, Jack, we'll end with you. True or false? The Packers are a bottom 3 team in the NFC.
I mean, with the way they played, you can't lose to the Broncos. Are you kidding me? Like, I like the Packers coming into the year. I thought they were a solid team. Jordan Love was off to a pretty decent start, but God, that's just brutal. You can't lose that game. And I mean, if you look at the teams in the NFC, I think I'm going to end up. I think I'm going to end up still saying false, just because the Panthers are awful. The Bears still suck. I mean, they won because they played Brian Hoyer. The Cardinals, they're scrappy, but like they're worse than the Packers. That roster just has no talent. Although maybe that changes with Kyler coming back. I don't know. Maybe that changes.
Yeah.
And I also just don't think the Giants are very good either. I don't like the way the Packers look this week, but I can't, like, with sound logic, say they're worse than any of those teams.
Look, they beat the Saints, so I don't think you can put the Saints above them at this point either. So I kind of agree with you. All right. New question. Which non-quarterback is most likely to win the MVP? Let me let you know. Or how about we do it as a trivia question? Who's the last non-quarterback to win the MVP?
I believe it's LaDainian Tomlinson.
Adrian Peterson.
It's Adrian Peterson, 2012.
Yeah.
LaDainian won it in 2006.
And
so
I
he
know,
was the one before
I'm pretty
that.
sure Sean Alexander won it a little bit before that.
In 2005.
Thank you.
So there was a stretch for 2 straight years a running back won it.
Wow.
So, anyway, so looking at this year, okay, the quarterback play hasn't been great. Obviously, you still have Mahomes and, everybody at the top, Jalen Hurts, whatever. But which non-quarterback in your eyes is most likely to win the MVP, Zach?
To me, it's clearly Tyreek Hill. I mean, he is by far the best receiver in the NFL. He makes fantastic plays with Tua getting him the ball. And that speed is just unbeaten. I mean, I remember last night, when he scored that touchdown against the Eagles, my reaction wasn't, oh man, we blew that coverage. That really sucked. It was like, no, this is just inevitable. This is just Tyreek Hill. He's going to score a touchdown. He's going to outrun our defense. That's just how it works. So that man is completely inevitable. I think if anyone that isn't a quarterback could win MVP, it would be him.
Jack?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do what I thought Zach would do. I'll take the Eagle. Jason Kelsey. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to be. Was that Dan Orlovsky that said that? No, I actually do think
for MVP. That's wild.
Yeah, no, I think I'll go with AJ Brown though. Realistically, because if you look at it, what it is that I don't think it's really realistic that a non-quarterback wins it really ever going forward. But if you look at the definition of the award, most valuable player, I think that the quarterback in Miami, Tua, has been outstanding. I think he would win it before Tyreek would. I think in San Francisco, Brock Purdy, up and down, but honestly, I would be more likely for him to win MVP than Christian McCaffrey. And in Cleveland, Deshaun Watson would never win MVP, but I think that AJ Brown, with the way that Jalen Hurts has played this year, which has been a little bit rocky at times, I think AJ Brown has been the consistent force in that offense, the guy that week in and week out has dominated for that team, and quite frankly has won them a few football games this year. I think if it were to be someone this year so far, it would be AJ.
Yeah, AJ only 97 yards behind Tyreek so far. Tyreek has 902, AJ 809, and there was one game where AJ didn't have anything. Like he had one catch for 11 yards. So it'll be super interesting. I don't think he'll be able to stay up with Tyreek, but I think in the end, you're right. It's either going to be boring and we're going to have Mahomes again, or maybe if Jalen does enough tush pushes, we may see him. So we'll have to see. All right. One last question, then we'll get to some more teacher test questions. And this one's for you, Jack. How in the heck are the Steelers 4-2?
It's the same answer I give every time someone asks me, how are the Steelers this record? How are they this record? They're supposed to suck. Mike Tomlin. It's the same thing every year. This team is going to go 9-8 like it always does because the defense is a Super Bowl level defense. I firmly believe that. The offense, the worst run offense in the NFL. The play calling is horrendous, but when you have a guy like George Pickens who can be explosive and get you a big play here and there, or Deontay Johnson who can be explosive and get a big play here and there, and then that defense to do the rest of the work, that can win you some games. And it can get you to 9-8 like the Steelers do every single year, week in and week out, year in and year out. I do not like it. It's going to be the same thing. That nothing changes. It's the same Steelers formula as every other season.
All right, interesting comment in the chat. So if your starting quarterback went down, would you rather have Tua or Justin Herbert?
Me personally, I'm saying Tua. But Jack, go ahead.
I think I would rather have Justin Herbert, but it's super close. I think Herbert is just a more talented quarterback, but I also think Herbert's lows have certainly been lower than Tua's this year. But I think at his absolute peak, Herbert is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. He throws his hat in the ring when he's playing at his best. So I think for that upside, I would have to take Herbert.
So Jack essentially says it's Tagovailover, right?
I guess so. We need to use the line.
All right, quick question. This is a test question for you, Zach. Multiple choice. The Dolphins, A, ran into a tush-push masterpiece. B, won't beat anyone decent all season long. If you look at their record, they have not beaten anybody that has more than 2 wins. C, are destined to be in the AFC Championship this year. Or D, just can't win with Tua.
Ooh, very interesting. And, funny enough, I really want to answer the same way I did last week with both A and C. But I am going to go with C. I think this team is still destined to be in the AFC Championship. I think they've shown that they have the skill, they have the talent to be able to make a deep run. Their front seven is no joke. They were doing fantastic against the Eagles' offensive line, who many say is the best in the entire league. They did a phenomenal job. They got 3 sacks on Jalen Hurts, and Lane Johnson let up his first sack in like 3 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. That happened against the Dolphins. So I think they are still on pace to make a deep playoff run. Don't know if they can make a Super Bowl appearance, but I think they're still a force to be reckoned with, even though their record doesn't really show it right now.
All right, that's a great segue. We are going to revisit our conference championship picks. I'm going to ask you a few questions. So we are going to go through really quickly. Tell me who you had in the AFC, Zach.
So right now we're in the beginning of the season.
Beginning of the season, not now. What did you have before the season?
The beginning of the season, I had Chiefs, Bengals, and Eagles, Niners.
All right, Zach.
You mean me?
I mean Zach. Jack. Sorry. It really sucks that y'all rhyme. That you guys rhyme. It's just anyway. Keep going.
Oh man, I had preseason Chiefs, Bengals, and Niners, Eagles.
So the exact same 4 by the exact same people that have one letter different in their name.
Yep.
Two technically. All right. I had Ravens, Bengals, a little bit of a zag, and Cowboys, Eagles, another zag. So which of the 4 are you most confident is right, and which is the one that you're like, absolutely not, get them off of my board?
Ooh.
I'll start. Give you some time. Let me start. Give you some time to think. All right. The easiest one for me to push aside, you would think would be the Bengals, but I'm going to say the Cowboys. I really thought I'd see a step up from Dak Prescott a little bit with how great that defense is, and they could take that step, maybe beat the Niners. But we saw it a couple of weeks ago. There's no way that's happening. I could see the Lions jumping up. I could see, obviously, I feel like the Eagles are going to be there. So, and you have, the 49ers. So I don't see the Cowboys being there. The one I'm most excited about of the ones I picked are the Eagles. But I have to say, I was really proud of Lamar Jackson, what he did yesterday. And I could see that team being a huge part of the AFC playoffs. So with that said, Jack, to you.
Yeah, I would say the one that I'll start with the one that I'm most confident in keeping, because that's the easiest, and that's definitely San Francisco. At this point, I don't really see a world where they're not in the NFC Championship game. I think they've been that good this year. I think the Browns game was just a minor hiccup against a really good defense, and I think this team will still continue to cruise. And then I think the one that I would get rid of has to be the Bengals. Even though I think they've played better lately, I think they started off horribly. Burrow looks more like himself now, and I think this team will recover. I've just been so impressed by what Baltimore has done this year. I think I would have to replace Cincy with Baltimore if I was doing it over again, just because I wouldn't be surprised if Cincy still made it back there, and I regret taking them out. But just the Ravens have been so impressive. What they did to the Lions absolutely dismantled them. Yeah. And at this moment in time, Lamar Jackson is my MVP. So take that as you will.
All right, Zach.
So of the 4 that I'm the most confident in, I would say the Niners, but you never know what can happen tonight with Monday Night Football. So I'm just going to stick with the Chiefs. I think they're just inevitable. Despite their concerns, they don't have anyone outside of Travis Kelce to throw to, and Mahomes is going to make it work anyways. Their defense may be a little questionable, but they can hold it down. They can change the game at any time. I think the Chiefs are going to be right back there. I have no doubt in my mind. And then sticking with the AFC, the team that I'm going to have to take out of these 4 is going to be the Bengals. Similar to Jack, I don't really want to take them out necessarily. They've looked better as of recent, but if there has to be one team, it's the Bengals. And I still think that the Dolphins could be that team to replace them, despite them losing last night, despite them not showing, being like, oh, we can't win against teams that have positive records. I think that will change. I think this is a really good team. We're going to see a stretch of dominance from them soon, I feel like. So I would say put the Dolphins in, take the Bengals out. But even then, Bengals still look pretty good regardless.
Yeah, no, they've taken a step up. They haven't, come around the corner just yet. But also, the Dolphins need to beat somebody decent before they can really stake that claim. Maybe they'll get to do that. What are the chances that Usher gets replaced by Taylor Swift if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl? Imagine the ratings hike they're going to have with all these Swifties, and she plays the halftime show. Are you serious?
I mean, it would be genius, but I'm pretty sure they actually asked her before they gave it to Usher, and she said no. It's like,
But that was a way different time. Now
That's
she's
true.
dating
It's
Travis
true.
Kelce.
It might still be beneath her.
It'll be interesting. All right, let's end the show here. Give me 2 waiver wire ads for this week. We have no buys this week. All right, so you're probably not going too deep on the waiver wire, but obviously there's always injuries. So Jack, we'll start with you. Give me 2 names.
Kareem Hunt is the first one. Jerome Ford sprained his ankle, out 1 to 2 weeks confirmed. So at this point, if you can pick up a running back on waivers that's going to make an impact, that's what you got to do. Kareem Hunt is rostered in less than half of leagues. I can't remember what exact the number is. But if he's on your waiver wire, he's definitely worth a scoop up. And then I'll go with Josh Downs as the other one. He had a phenomenal game this past week. He's been good pretty much consistently this year. He's had a few good games here. And he's a guy that I really liked in the draft. He was my wide receiver 5 in the class. Yes, I remember that exactly. And I think that he's just a super talented player, and I would scoop him up with the way that he's playing.
Really quickly, I got to put this on the show here because it's just one of the greatest comments we've ever had. Obviously, Dolphins looking for some calls last night. So Zach, I apologize. I'll let Jack have the first 2 picks in this waiver wire draft.
I really do like Josh Downs off waivers this week, but there's still a few good names that I can think of. First of all, going back to running back, Darrell Henderson had a very solid game for the Rams. With Kyron Williams out, Darrell Henderson stepped up, and he had a pretty solid game. I could see that continuing. The Rams, to me, are a really good team to buy into as well. If you have Puka, Cooper Kupp, or Darrell Henderson / Kyron Williams, you got a pretty good piece right there, pretty good solid piece for your fantasy roster. And then I'm going to go Tank Dell. I feel like these Houston wide receivers, one of them has a big week every week. It's just you don't know which one it's going to be. Sometimes it's Nico Collins, sometimes it's Tank Dell. So I like that Houston offense a lot, but just know if you pick him up, there's no guarantee he has a great game. You're pretty much flipping a coin every week.
All right, final question. We're going to end the show. It's for you, Zach. If the Phillies come back, they're down 5-1, top of the 9th. Will you shave your beard so that all you have is a mustache?
Look, I love my team. I'm not sure I'm willing to do that much for them.
Okay.
First of all, they're not coming back. Secondly, tomorrow night will be filled.
Well, then it's not a risk. If they're not coming back, there's no risk.
It's not a risk, so it's not happening. Also,
no rally stats.
My girlfriend would be pissed. She would be pissed.
I get that, but it's almost November. It's going to be perfect timing. All right. Well, obviously you don't love the Phillies like I thought you did. So good luck to them. I hope they do come back. Maybe if they come back, I'll shave my beard just to the mustache.
Sure, it would be great, but Philadelphia has never, in their entire 100-plus year history, played in a Game 7 in the playoffs.
Wow.
Oh,
never have.
About to come in an end. That's amazing, actually. We may end up with 2
really crazy
CS Game 7.
But we'll see. It's top of the 9th. We're probably screwed, and we're probably going to Game 7. So
yeah. Well, it was all downhill once you lost that first series against the Rangers.
It's in April. It's all Craig Campbell's fault, but it's okay.
Great analysis. Thanks, guys. We'll see you Wednesday on the Pass the Rock Fantasy Show. Good night.